Hello, everyone, and welcome to Good Journeys Tarot. I'm Rosemary, and you're watching 78 Cards in 78 Weeks. We have 5 episodes left after today. I know everyone's got to be as excited as I am to finally see this come to completion. Not a lot been going on here recently because I have needed a little bit of a break. So I've had like what I'm calling a gamecation. I've been playing a game for 3 days and learning about it and enjoying it and finally getting into the groove a little bit, figuring things out as you go. That's the thing about RPG games, is sometimes they don't give you all of the tutorial up front. You have to figure things out as you go. And that's really why I've been doing this series, is to help understand the tarot better. And creating my own deck, I had to take the cards apart piece by piece, looking at all of the different meanings and different imagery that various creators have used over the years, and come up with something that spoke to me personally, and work my way through it. And I think that's a great way to gain an understanding of almost anything, is by taking it apart and putting it back together, creating it in your image, so to speak, as it were. We are going to be talking about the Four of Cups today. And this is the last cup in our cup suit, our water suit. It is the first set of cards that we finished, the suit of cups. Though I like the card I created, I'm not completely thrilled with it, and we'll talk about that a little later. But first, let's have my special guest today join us to talk about the Four of Cups. Our guest today is no stranger to most of you because we all see his lovely face on Instagram and YouTube, and that's Jason from Tarot by the Pines. Welcome, Jason. So glad to have you here.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Rosemary. And hello to everyone who is watching. Happy to be here.
So we do have a few people already popping in. We have Tony from Antoinette Intuitive Tarot and Jewelry and Tarot Stash. And I'm sure there's some other lurkers back there as well. Looking forward to having some of them back on my channel again soon, hopefully. As we wrap up this series and I have a completed deck. So what's your first thought when you hear Four of Cups?
Initially, it is boredom, it's disappointment. But as I was preparing for this live, Rosemary, I will be honest that I have learned quite a few different keywords associated with the Four of Cups. Originally, I thought it was always the boredom card, but disappointment was a new one that I learned. And with tarot, you just never stop learning. So this was a very fun little card to do a little bit of research on.
So for me, from the first time I saw this card, I always thought of it as meditation, like looking for that thing that was missing in life, so to speak. And in some ways, I guess it's related to that boredom. A lot of what I read talked about how, you know, this person basically in the three, they had it all, their friends and everything, and they're in a place of comfort. Like they have everything they need, but they're discontented with that comfort, right?
Yes.
Which is actually what the Thoth calls this card, comfort or luxury. And it's easy, like the reason I'm doing what I'm doing this weekend is because I'm discontent, right? With how things are just going fine all the time. I need to introduce something new and exciting, right? So why don't we look at some cards? I have a few here that are very much Smith-Waite based, like the Queer Tarot, which and this one actually emphasizes that boredom with that little sad face there on the t-shirt. And some other cards bring that in different ways.
That's
I
a
thought this
beautiful
one was
card.
kind of weird. It was interesting. Was the Rider-Waite rather than there is a cup being handed, but I mean this person already has enough, right?
Yeah.
I mean the water is flowing in their life already, and yet here's more coming. To me, this kind of looks more like excess than like, you know,
absolutely
or luxury or anything. But
yeah.
So what kind of cards did you bring out today?
So I got a couple or a few actually. Of course, I had to bring it out. The Golden Girls Tarot. This is Rose. This is a card that really helped me understand the boredom in the Four of Cups. After the Three of Cups, you know, you have Blanche and Dorothy and Rose together in their apartment, but then in this particular episode, Rose leaves and she goes to a new apartment with new friends. So here she's definitely bored. She misses the Three of Cups, essentially. And then the next one, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I remember that episode. That's awesome. I didn't pull out that card this week.
Oh, nice. The next one is from the Tarot of Curious Creatures. So you have like a bunny rabbit here. Got there, is it 4? 3 beside them, and then there's an extra cup that has that rose-colored glasses being offered to them. So this card, it takes that boredom and kind of elevates it a little, of where you put on these rose-colored glasses to really think about the positives in your life. So I really think this is a beautiful interpretation of the Four of Cups, and very RWS inspired, of course.
Yeah,
and then the final one is my absolutely favorite, Rosemary, and it is not from the Everyday Witch Tarot. It is from the Trick or Treat Tarot.
Oh, I have that one in here too.
Oh, perfect.
Yes.
This
Tell me
one,
about it.
this was really fun to read up on. So this really takes that disappointment uh, meaning of the Four of Cups and really shines a light on it. So this little kid went out trick-or-treating, and clearly they had their heart set on chocolate, but instead they got all these different other types of candies like lollipops and maybe some gummies there. And honestly, I would prefer the gummies over the chocolate. But
It depends on my mood.
exactly.
Candy is candy.
That's right. So I really like this. This has to be my favorite of all the Four of Cups in my library.
Another thing that brings up is this idea of having enough, right? Like he's
Hmm.
got all of this stuff, and this is the mystic garbage tarot. Wait,
Oh,
is that right? Mystic garbage. For some
interesting.
reason, my words are not working this today. But this is the idea here. It could be one of two things: either you're enjoying everything you've got more than enough, or you've had too much and you're releasing it. Right? Kind of
Right.
that idea from that trick or treat tarot, where you eat so much candy and then you just don't enjoy it anymore. Right?
Exactly.
You've had enough. You can't go any further. And that, I guess, that kind of brings in that boredom idea that we get from
Hmm.
having too much of a good thing. I thought this was an interesting way to depict boredom. In the I don't I've done this, sitting at the table and you just kind of lean your chair back
Yeah.
and forth, rocking because you don't know what else to do. There's,
Yeah.
that I thought was interesting.
What card is that from? What
This
deck
is
is
the
that from?
Curious Travels Tarot, which I
Oh.
think is coming out. I thought it was coming out this year from US Games, but it may be next year. But this was the indie version. I'm hoping there's going to be a guidebook with the mass market edition
Mm.
because there wasn't with this one that
Oh,
really talked about the cards. Uh,
interesting.
this is the Four of Cups from the Lightworkers deck by Grace Collis and from tarotskills.com.
Okay.
And in it, she calls it arrogant wastefulness.
Hmm.
We've had enough and we keep going. And it kind of
Hmm.
harkens back to that idea of all that candy
Yeah.
on the table in that trick or treat tarot, which is really interesting. Um, yeah. But you do get a lot that call them boredom, like here in the Wildwood. It's
Oh,
actually
yeah.
called, the keyword is boredom that's on the card. This woman obviously has everything lounging and relaxing there, but she's bored
Uh-huh.
to death. Um, and then this one, which interestingly enough resembles this card in a way, is from the Tarot of the Toiling Hand, and it calls it the Daughter of Reflection and Recline. And
Oh.
that's kind of how I'd always seen this card. Of this person is just kind of leaned against the tree with their eyes shut,
Hmm.
thinking, relaxing, reflecting, and the cup to me was the idea or emotional experience that came to them,
Ah.
kind of that enlightenment moment.
Yeah.
Because for me, the fours are about stability,
Hmm.
and I understand that stability can become boredom for people after a while. So to me, that would be like a shadow side of the card, maybe,
Hmm.
and that the upright would be, that balance of your emotions, so to speak,
Ah.
being in a good place, comfortable enough to reflect.
Mm.
Um, that's kind of how I've seen it. So I see both sides of that. It's just whether you're which you consider the shadow and which you consider the light side of the card, I think.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Terra Stash says he'd like the guidebook for the Curious Travels as well. Some people just think of it as the not interested card, like the life is like a board game, which is not interested place, which is interesting. But I talked about the Thoth earlier, and that it talks about the idea of comfort,
Oh, yeah.
which this is the new era elements and these little otters playing to family
Oh, that's
together,
cute.
um, or luxury, which in this case they used a more Smith Waite image, but has the Thoth keywords on it in the Lost Hollow Tarot, which is
Ah.
and he's actually looking away from the cup. He didn't want to have anything to do with the cup because he's got enough, so to speak. But this is one of my favorite Four of Cups, and this is the Urban Tarot, and this is the idea of luxury as a relationship, and the idea that you can become complacent when you're so comfortable in a relationship and maybe get bored. But also, there's still that positive idea of, okay, you're comfortable with each other and happy, so to speak, and able to just sit back, relax, and be together without having to go out and do activities and that type of thing. So,
Oh, I like that.
Loved that. Loved it. So, do you have any other cards?
I did have one more.
Okay.
This is from the Affirmators Tarot. So it is an animal-based deck. So I think this is an ostrich, got their head in the sand with 3 cups in the sand. And then you have this 4th cup here that's kind of got this, I guess, confetti or some type of stuff coming out of the cup saying, hey, look at me, you know. So I really like this deck because it's very tongue-in-cheek, and it doesn't take itself so seriously. So I really like this little tidbit of saying the cup saying, look at me, you have more things to be, enjoyed instead of looking at stuff that you may have not. This is from the Affirmators.
Yeah. Gerald said an interesting thing. Jeffrey thinks that the 4 of Cups as the letdown card. After the 3 of Cups, everyone's went home and you're by yourself. But here's another take from the Modern Love related to that. You're with those people still, but you just aren't feeling it.
Oh, you're not feeling the vibe.
Yeah, you're just it's not working for you. You've had enough, maybe. So instead of them having left you, you've left them mentally, right? You're ready to walk out the door, kind of thing.
Oh, I like that card.
Let's see. Here's a couple of other ideas that came up in the cards for me. One was the idea of aid, because there is that hand offering that other cup. So like your other cups are empty. So here I'm bringing you something else. So here a mate is bringing, the prey to their mate in the Darkwood Tarot. And again, you kind of see that in some other decks like the Slow Tarot, where a person is offering a person a cup of tea. And you see that in a lot of modern decks where a person will be offering someone a cup of tea when all of their cups are empty. So this idea of possibly receiving aid, either from a person or outside of yourself, to balance, to fill that gap that was missing. Let's see, that one's board. And of course, the Spirit Keepers Tarot, I called it the Hollow Void. And so there is this idea of meditation there, but also this idea that something is missing, or that we're overlooking something, or that we are ignoring something that is there because we have our eyes closed meditating, which is a concept that I really love. These have to be the 2 that I relate to the most. And you can already see that what they are, at least in theory. The first one is from the 4 of Cups from the pocket. Is this pocket? This is Out of Hand. And in here is that choice of like, okay, it's watching the TV or reading the book. And that's kind of where I've been all week, right? It's like I'm glued to my game on my computer, which I'll be back on as soon as we hit in broadcast. Instead of reading and writing and all of that good stuff, because it's past time for me to put together another article. And I need to work on the guidebook for the deck and all of that good stuff. But last week I must have redone 15, 20 cards to get them ready for printing. And so I'm kind of just out of that space. But this totally related to me this week when I saw this card. And that idea of just being distracted by the television over all of the other things that you possibly could be doing.
Yeah.
And the other one was the 4 of Vessels from the Transient Light Tarot, which I used over on Instagram this week. I actually do this, right? I have the water can sitting beside the plant that's dying, right? It's just, what you need is there, but you're not taking advantage of it,
Yeah.
right? And it kind of goes back to that idea that Terry Stash said of the people have left,
Yeah.
and so, or your cups are empty. But the truth of the matter is that it's there. You just have to look. You have to like open your eyes, so to speak.
Yeah.
Uh,
I did have a quick question.
yeah.
How do you feel about getting like a card like that in a reading for yourself? Like, I know we like to get like the good cards per se, but like, do you feel one way or the other if you receive a card like the Four of Cups?
Well, the Four of Cups to me has never been particularly negative in my mind, so it doesn't
Hmm.
bother me to get it. I mean, if I see it, I'm like, okay, what am I overlooking? What am I
Hmm.
not appreciating? Is there, something missing in this situation that I need? To me, it's more of a card to promote exploration on my part than to
Mm,
set, um,
yeah.
a negative, right? Because obviously, if you're bored with something, then you need to find a way to breathe life into it or let it
Yeah.
go. And obviously, in the tarot, when we move to the five, we let it go, right?
Hmm.
And but some people count the other way, and so maybe we embrace that thing that we're missing, and we end up partying in the three. So it
Oh,
goes
okay.
both ways, right?
Hmm.
We can either be celebrating that we have found what we were missing, or we can be letting go of that thing and moving somewhere else.
Mm,
Because the tarot, it does can go both ways. And when you read certain books, like for example, The Secrets of the Smith Way and 78 cards, 78 Degrees of Wisdom, they actually cover the cards that way. They go from 10 to ace
oh,
rather than
okay.
going from ace to 10 like other books. And it's interesting to me, and I think it's perfectly valid that we look at the tarot both ways, right? Because we can go backwards or forwards depending on which way we look at the numbers, from where we're at.
Hmm, that's interesting. I've never looked at it that way. Hmm.
Let's see. Tony says it could suggest enough already. I've had three. A fourth would make me need to go pee. And so it's suggesting stability at the moment,
Yeah.
versus in the five having totally too much and having to go,
Yeah.
and that type of thing. And there is something interesting in this book, and I will tell you guys one of the things I'm going to talk about in my finale is which books I found most useful and which ones I found useless, um, or at least not as helpful. I'd hate to call any author's book useless, but anyway, this is the best book out there, except for the fact she gets the elemental associations of knights and kings backwards, in my opinion. But
Oh,
everybody disagrees on that, so that's
oh,
okay.
okay.
It is so good. One of the things that Corinne Keener points out in tarot and astrology is how much moon energy is in this card, because this is the moon in Cancer. And Cancer, of course, is about self-reflection and
Hmm.
protection. Um, and so it all comes back to that moon energy. So you get the high priestess, but the high priestess kind of on steroids. We're like stuck in that meditation space. We're not applying the thing, right? We're not finding that thing, seeing that thing that we need to see, because we're so into our own space, right?
Yeah.
Kind of
Uh,
thing.
oh,
Which I thought was interesting. But yes, I love this book. And so the Golden Dawn called it the Lord of Blended Pleasure. And near as I can think, what the concept would be, we've absorbed all that pleasure to the point that now we are discontent, right? We've taken as
mm,
much of it as we can.
yeah.
Um, and so it's no longer um, a good thing for us.
Yeah.
Arwen's deck says you need to notice what's right in front of you. Your guides are here to help you. Is what is a note from Tony. So do you read reversals, or do you consider both the upright and reverse meanings when you see a card in the reading?
So I don't read reversals. So I guess I get both meanings upright.
Okay. Okay. So this is kind of the issue for me with this card is that most people see this as the way I would see it on the shadow side, like
Right.
with boredom, disappointment, all of that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
for me, because the fours are about stability, I tend to see this as more of a positive thing, like inner reflection as to what's missing in your life
Hmm.
or what's going to bring that stability kind of thing.
Yeah.
And see the shadow side more as that boredom and that kind of thing. But there are definitely two different ways of looking at the card. And some of the things that we haven't talked about um, is that this could be a gift and a challenge, right? Because the person could be bringing you something like we saw in the Darkwood Tarot.
Hmm.
It can be about ennui or apathy, lack of motivation, even. Um, talked about a lot of those things. But some people will talk about it as rest or meditation, like I had
Hmm.
mentioned earlier, that because they're seated under the tree, their eyes are closed. It could be daydreaming, right? Maybe
Yeah.
that cup is a fantasy, um, and so to speak.
Hmm.
Do you have any other thoughts on the card or ways that you've seen it come up?
Uh, Not really. No. I think you hit it nail on the head with like the whole meditation and being in that stable place where you can you know meditate and figure out what you're missing. Um, yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll look at what I did real quick. I'm not convinced this is going to be the card that I'm going to use. In fact, I
Oh.
made because so what happens is usually I'll have an idea, a moment in my life, and I want to portray that. And if I don't, then I just start creating a Smith Waite image and seeing where it goes. And
Uh-huh.
so that's how I ended up with this card. Is I was kind of going with the Smith Waite um, imagery, and I decided to connect it with certain cards in my deck because it just made sense.
Okay.
I decided to connect it with the High Priestess because of that moon
Mm.
in Cancer. And I decided to connect it with the other water cards. Like I've connected it with the 10 and with the
Mm.
Queen. So there is that happiness and that um, emotional energy there. But also, a common note about this card is that looks like the same cup in the ace, right? Because that's the
Yeah.
hand in the cloud holding the cup. And
Hmm.
so, yes, I connected it with my ace as well. And so, what I ended up with, which I changed because of a comment Tony made this morning or last night, is it looks like this. You can see I haven't even trimmed it yet because I just finished editing it. But the hand, when I was playing with the image. The hand got moved to the back of the shell. That's why it looked weird, Tony. So now it's in front. So the shell's actually inside the hand rather than being in front of the hand. And so this is how it kind of ended up. And I did it this way because to me, there is the possibility that the thing that it's being offered is different than the thing that you had. So breaking
Mm.
that boredom if you look
Okay.
around.
Yeah.
And so
Are those water bottles?
those are water bottles. They're empty water bottles. I made them a little
Okay.
transparent so they appeared empty. So if we zoom in, we probably will see some of the grass behind it.
Ah.
Um, but yeah, and Amy has just joined us. Hello, Amy.
Hey, Amy.
We are looking at the card image now, and I was telling everybody I wasn't feeling inspired, and I worked towards a kind of a. And you can actually see I haven't actually went back and edited here. That I have to hand color that green, which I had on my previous version, which see how the shell is in front of the hand instead of inside it. So when I fixed that, I didn't have time to do the green there. So still editing on it. Thank you, Gerald. Yes, that was the thing that I was wanting to point out. And also it allowed me to use my ace, which is the shell, and the exact same hand and shell. And I'm generally happy with it, though. I've been looking for different imagery to accomplish a different feel to it, because I do have some thoughts about moments in my life where I felt this way. But this comes close. I mean, there's some Smith-Waite imagery that comes very close to moments in my life. By adding the water here, I actually brought it closer to periods of my life where I would sit by the river or the lake or wherever and reflect on the fact that I had nothing good, even though I had lots of good things, right? Yeah. So I think that's where we're going right now. What do you have coming up for us that you'd like to share?
Later today, I will be putting a video. It's a hashtag, I think, How Do You Tarot? Just a 20-minute video of like going through 10 different prompts just to have viewers understand my way of viewing tarot and how I practice it, and a few tidbits here and there. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, like we were talking backstage, I make videos when I can, or when I'm motivated, when I get out of that Four of Cups moment, I guess, and just put out videos. But that's the latest and greatest that's coming down the pipeline for me.
Sure. Well, that's one I've been wanting to do. Probably when I finish this series, I have a space before I start my next series, which will probably be very short, maybe 3 months. I'm going to do some hashtags.
There you go.
And so, yeah. So Gerald, I can't wait to get a copy of it either. Gerald and Amy are going to proof the cards for me. I'll be looking for people to proof the guidebook this summer. When I get closer to having it finished. The guidebook won't be out till October, probably, because I've got to do most of the writing for it. Still, even though I've done entries for the cards, I haven't done any of the rest of it, and I need to finish the entries for the cards once the cards are completed. But the goal is to have the deck available on Make Playing Cards in July. Though I'm shooting for sooner. It depends on how that first draft comes across. And I've been working diligently to try to have the cards done when I finish the final card so that I could go ahead and order it. And so I will have the deck by, May, maybe, in my hands, so I can play with it. Yeah.
Wow.
And
fly by.
Oh, absolutely. Tarot Stash, you keep inviting me to your channel, but then we never touch base on it. So yes, absolutely. And Amy's like, I have lots of red pens that teach English.
I have no doubt.
Yeah. So the rest of this month, I have Kate Murrah will be here next week from Group Tarot. And then I have Maria Alves Hernando from the Sibley's Tarot and the World Divination Association coming after that, along with Marieke Lexmond, who wrote the Madigan Chronicles, which is based on the Minor Arcana series of novels. And so she'll be coming. And then we're going to finish the last week with the last card with Amy and Gerald, who helped get this whole thing going, really by just being supportive and present and encouraging me. And then we'll have a finale and more about that in the future. But I need to choose a card for Kate Murrah. I have 4 cards left. There's actually a wand, a pentacle, a sword, and a major arcana. It just ended up that way because we've been drawing them random. So if you want to pick a number between 1 and 4 or a multiple thereof, then I will figure out which card it's going to be.
Oh gosh, the pressure, me picking the card. Let's go with 4. Let's do it.
Oh, okay. So 4. All right. It is the 3 of Wands. So next week I'll be doing the 3 of Wands with Kate Murrah. This is going to be an interesting one because this is a card that for the longest time I always confused with the 2 of Wands. They just seem so similar to me in the Smith-Waite. And I think I kind of have the difference in my head now, but we'll explore that more next week. Thank you so much for being here, Jason, and helping us talk about the 4 of Cups.
Of course. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to touch base with you and to hear you talk about the Golden Girls Tarot.
Of course.
It's a lot of fun. All right. Let's see. What's that? 79. What is 79? Did I miss that? Okay. Well, thank you everybody for being here. I hope that you have a great week. I probably will not be posting daily card polls this week on Instagram, but I will be sharing our 3 of Wands cards for 79 was her card choice. Let's talk about that April 9th, which you are invited to, by the way, Tony. I'll touch base with you again soon. Until next time, everybody, good journeys.
Bye.